In the third week of May, 1972, in McDonough County, Illinois, the wind came in low and dry across Walter Haynes' Northfield, carrying dust instead of the smell of turned soil, and for the third straight year, nothing had been planted there, not corn, not beans, not even clover, and that morning, standing alone in the middle of those 40 acres, Walter unfolded a piece of paper, so worn at the creases, it no longer stayed flat, unless you held it down with both hands. It wasn't a survey. It wasn't official. It was a hand-drawn map. October 1946. His father's handwriting. And right there, just off the center of the field, was a pencil circle no larger than a coffee saucer. Next to it, written slow and careful, "Water runs here. Deep." Behind him, tires cracked gravel. A truck door shut harder than it needed to. Walter didn't turn. He already knew who it was. Let me tell you about Thomas Grady, 32 years old, county loan officer, educated, precise, the kind of man who trusted numbers more than memory and reports more than instinct. He drove a clean 1971 Ford F-100 and carried every decision he made in a leather briefcase with metal corners that clicked when it opened. Inside that case was everything Walter was about to lose. $18,400. Past due, collateral, 40 acres of dry ground, and a tractor most people would have scrapped 10 years earlier. Thomas walked out into the field, shoes too clean for where he was standing, and stopped a few feet behind Walter. "You planning to plant this?" he asked. Walter folded the map once, then again, slipped it into his shirt pocket like it belonged there. "No." Thomas let out a short breath through his nose. "Good," he said, "because the Extension Office has already classified the soil as low-retention clay mix. You won't recover input costs." Walter nodded. "I know." That should have ended it, but it didn't, because Walter reached down, picked up a shovel, and drove it into the ground. Thomas blinked. "What are you doing?" Walter didn't look at him. "Digging." And that's when it happened. Thomas laughed. Not quiet, not respectful. A full, open laugh that carried across the field and bounced off the fence line, where two men had stopped working just to watch. "Digging?" Thomas said, shaking his head. "For what gold?" Walter pulled the shovel free, turned the soil. "Calm, steady. My father marked the place," he said there was water. Thomas laughed again, louder this time. "Walter, this land has been tested 3 times since 1969. There's no viable water source here. If there was, we'd know about it." Walter drove the shovel in again. They didn't have his map. That stopped the laughter, just for a second. Then Thomas stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You're 6 weeks behind season. Even if this idea worked, which it won't, you don't have time to recover financially." Walter paused, looked out over the field, then said something so quietly Thomas almost missed it. "I'm not trying to recover." Thomas frowned. "Then what are you trying to do?" Walter pushed the shovel deeper. "I'm trying to be right." Silence. Wind moved through dead stalks. Somewhere a gate creaked. Had you ever known you were right when everyone around you had already decided you were wrong? Because that's what this looked like. A 71-year-old man, a dead field, and a map no one believed in. But when the shovel hit 18 inches down, the sound changed. Not dry, not hollow, heavier. Walter stopped, looked down, and didn't say a word, because the ground had just told him something Thomas couldn't hear, and he started digging faster. The first foot of soil came up light, too light, dry topsoil that hadn't held moisture in years, the kind that lifts like powder and falls back without weight. Walter worked through it without thinking, each motion slow and deliberate, like he'd done it 1,000 times before. Thomas stood with his arms crossed, watching, waiting for this to prove what he already believed. At 18 inches, the color changed. Darker, denser. Walter noticed, didn't react, just adjusted his stance and kept going. At 2 feet, the shovel resisted. Not hard, but enough to matter. Clay, real clay, packed, old, holding something. Thomas shifted his weight. "That's just subsoil," he said, though it didn't sound as confident as before. Walter didn't answer. Let me tell you about the Farmel M sitting 20 yards behind them. Built in 1949 in Rock Island, Illinois. 248 cubic inch engine. Around 38 drawbar horsepower. No cab. No comfort. Just steel, weight, and torque delivered through gears thick enough to outlast the men who ran them. Walter's father bought it new for $1,750 and used it to break this very ground when nobody else thought it was worth the effort. That tractor didn't just work land. It proved points. And right now it was waiting. At 3 feet, Walter climbed out of the hole. Not tired. Thinking. He looked down into it, then back toward the map in his pocket. Then he climbed back in. Thomas stepped closer now. Close enough to see. Close enough to hear the change. At 4 feet, the shovel struck something solid. A dull, flat sound. Not rock. Not root. Something placed. Walter stopped immediately. Knelt down. Cleared dirt with his hands. Slow. Careful. And then he found the edge. Round. Smooth. Man-made. Thomas crouched beside the hole. What is that? Walter brushed more soil away, revealing a full circle about 3 feet across. Stone. Fitted. Sealed. I don't know, Walter said. And that was the first time he'd said those words all morning. Thomas leaned in further now. Curiosity replacing certainty. You didn't know this was here? Walter shook his head. My father never dug it. Silence stretched again. Wind picked up. The 2 men by the fence weren't pretending to work anymore. Walter ran his hand along the stone cap, fingers tracing its edge like it was something alive. Then he stood up, walked to the Farmel, turned the key. The engine came to life with a deep, steady rumble. Thomas turned. Walter, hold on. If that's sealed, opening it could. Walter didn't argue. He just hooked the chain, tightened it, climbed up, and eased the tractor forward. The chain pulled tight. Nothing happened. Then, a shift, barely visible. Then again, the ground gave a small, low tremor. Thomas stepped back instinctively. The stone lifted. An inch. 2. And then something unexpected happened. Cold air rose out of the hole. Not warm. Not stale. Cold, like it had been locked away. Walter stopped the tractor immediately. Shut it off. Silence dropped heavy over the field. Thomas stepped closer again, slower this time. But Walter was already walking back, already kneeling, already brushing dirt away by hand. Because whatever was under that stone wasn't something you rushed. And when he finally got his fingers under the edge, he felt it move. The seal didn't break all at once. It gave slowly, like it had weight behind it. Walter shifted his grip, pulled harder, and the stone cap tilted just enough to let a thin line of darkness show beneath it. Then came the sound. Not loud, not sharp. A low, hollow release, like something exhaling after holding its breath for decades. Thomas froze. Did you hear that? Walter didn't answer. He pulled again. The cap slid. Just enough. And the air changed. Cooler. Cleaner. He leaned down, looked inside, and for the first time all day, he smiled. There it is, he said. Thomas dropped into the hole beside him. Careful now. Careful in a way he hadn't been before. He crouched, looked in, and what he saw didn't match anything he'd expected. Not mud, not standing water. Movement, clear water, rising slowly from below. Have you ever seen something that completely rewrites what you thought you understood? Because that's what this was. Let me tell you something most people never learn about groundwater. Surface water lies. It dries, shifts, disappears with weather. But deep aquifer water, water trapped between layers of dense earth and stone, builds pressure over time. When you tap into it, it doesn't just sit there, it moves. It pushes upward, steady and reliable, because it's being fed from somewhere far beyond what you can see. That kind of water doesn't depend on rainfall. It depends on geology. And what Walter had found was pressure. Thomas reached down, touched it, jerking his hand back slightly from the cold. This isn't runoff. Walter shook his head. No, it's constant, Thomas said. Walter nodded once. The wind shifted again, this time carrying moisture, faint, but real. Thomas climbed out of the hole fast, pacing, thinking, calculating in real time. How far does it run? He asked. Walter climbed out behind him. Don't know yet. Thomas looked out across the entire 40 acres, then back at the hole, then at Walter. We test it, he said. We map it. If this runs even a fraction of what I think it might. Walter, this land isn't dead. Walter looked at the field. Long, quiet, then back at the hole, then at the tractor, and said the one thing that changed everything. Tomorrow, because whatever they had just uncovered was only the first answer, and they hadn't even started asking the real questions yet. By early June, they had 12 holes. Not random, not guesses. Each one placed where the map said it should be, and each one told the same story. Water, steady, cold, reliable. Thomas stopped carrying the original foreclosure papers, started carrying notebooks instead. Measurements, flow rates, depth logs. He ran numbers again, then a third time just to be sure. And every version came back the same. He'd been wrong. Completely. By August, Walter had trenches running, gravity-fed irrigation built from salvage pipe and fittings pulled from an abandoned dairy system 5 miles east. Nothing modern, nothing polished, but it worked. That farm ran every single day, pulling, hauling, cutting through ground everyone had already written off. And when October came, Walter planted. Late, but certain. The first harvest came in 1973. Thomas stood there when it did. Same field, different outcome. Yield reports in his hand. Numbers he hadn't expected to ever write. The loan? Paid. Every dollar. $18,400. Cleared. He handed Walter the final paper, without ceremony. No speech. Just truth. I was wrong, he said. Walter nodded. I know. Let me tell you what happened after that. Thomas stayed in banking, but he changed. He listened longer, doubted less, and never laughed at a farmer in a field again. Walter farmed until 1981. Same land, same machine, same map. He passed in 1982. Quietly, at home. The farm went to his daughter Ellen. She still runs it today. The well is still there, maintained, covered, respected. And the farm still running. Same engine, same steel, same sound. Because some machines aren't just built to work. They're built to last long enough to prove something. Some things don't become obsolete. They just wait for someone willing to look where others stopped. If you ever held on to something everyone else gave up on, tell me about it in the comments. I read every story. And there's another one coming, about a farmer who hid a machine for 11 years rather than let the bank take it. You'll want to hear that one.